So, you want to learn how to parry, do you? Well, you should probably try a better tool to start. Using Assessors is a good choice once you got it down, but failing leaves you without any stamina. Well, I guess I still have you, Hollows, to listen to this. Anyways, parrying is unreliable, risky, punishable, and predictable. For those reasons, you'll almost never see it in the duels of high-skilled players. Sometimes in these duels, they will either make a great read from or directly react to the opponent's attack and land a parry. But even then, there's usually a safer way to counter an attack without risking major punishment by doing a parry. You can see here two weapon arts that are famous for being easily parryable, suddenly becoming not so easy to parry. Or here's an attack you never use in your life anywhere near someone with an offhand cestus, being spammed against someone with an offhand cestus. The point being, parrying is a skill, but not one that's going to help you virtually at all the moment you start dueling better players. Okay, but dueling isn't the only way to play PvP in this game. In Invasions, the players you will find there are pretty much on the same range of skill as arena players. The key difference here is healing. More stuff goes on, more players, more health, more time, more blood spilt. And therefore, there is way many more opportunities to try the riskier plays that might reward you with that sweet, sweet burst damage. Even then, it's not a winning strategy to primarily use parries. The host with proper vigor at meta level cannot be one-shot by basically any parry swap.
Alright, Amir. I'm gonna have to ask you to shut the fuck up. I don't need your life lessons on how parries are situational or not necessarily representative of skill. I want to become an epic, fisher, Suppa Swappa, stinker, parry motherfucking god. What I need is the best parry tool there is. Because, you know, my current one just isn't doing it. I thought to main the PKCS in the offhand because I heard it's the best weapon in the game. But every time I try to parry, they roll into me and I get staggered for no fucking reason. How does this happen? Why does this happen? What the fuck even is this game? I don't even...
Well, it's clear a lot of you want to parry just so you can look flashy. There's nothing wrong with that if it's for fun. That's what most people want from a game at the end of the day. But if you really want to be flashy, it might not be enough to simply land it and take the riposte with your previously equipped weapons in Hornet Ring. For some people, you also need to swap your weapon, your ring, and your entire armor set after pairing with a Black Knight Great Axe with the Curved Sword moveset swapped onto it. Or...
I don't know what any of that means. I just want to get a regular riposte with my regular straight sword. So, what's the best tool for that?
That's kinda hard. I'd have to use a combination of hard data, in-battle examples, tests, wisdom, and most importantly, fashion sense, to determine what parry tool is truly the best. The things we will be considering for each parry in this list is how quickly this tool can get to parry frames from a neutral state, the size of this tool's parry window, the best stability you can get with this parry, how quickly this parry grants block frames, the size of this tool's block window, how quickly you can escape after starting this parry, how quickly you can move or menu after landing the parry. Other special attributes of this parry that make it better or worse. If you need to know how parries work in the first place and why the size of the parry window matters, watch my video on how the parry works. Everything else should be explained as we go. Now, if you'll excuse me, Kevin, I need to go collect some data. Ah, the curved sword parry. It may look amazing in the clips I assembled, but oh my, is there several glaring reasons you don't often see people using this one. It is so bad that to even get a single one of these in an invasion, I'd have to pre-calculate the exact frame timing to parry my opponent on their respective latency, and then use up all my mental energy trying to predict exactly when they are going to attack so I can place my parry perfectly. As you will see, this kind of parry leaves very little room for error against anything other than a charge weapon arc from neutral. So, if you are on a quest for peak badassery, this is your parry, but prepare for the path of pain. Now let's go down this little iceberg of why the curved sword parry is shit. The surface. Delayed and small window. This is no secret. The only other tool that shares a window this delayed and short is the medium shield. The exact startup in 30 FPS is 6 frames and the window is 2 frames. To convert to 60 FPS, just multiply the frame amount by 2. To convert the frames into seconds, just divide the frame amount by the frames per second. For example, divide 6 by 30 and you'll get 1/5 of a second. So the startup of a curved sword parry is exactly that amount of time. Now let's travel down to level 1. No tracking. Almost every non-shield parry tool in the game has some amount of tracking to it. On top of other advantages, tracking on parries can save you from backstabs. Level 2. Enabling of roll hit stun. For some obscure only FromSoft knows reason, this attack includes a special effect during most of its animation that causes yourself to get light hit stunned by your enemy's rolls. There's nothing else in the game I'm aware of that also has this behavior, at least when it comes to the player. Level 3. Cannot use the force parry. There are 2 types of parries in the game, and almost all parry tools have both of them. First, there is the hand slap parry, which occurs when the attacking hand of a parryable weapon collides with the spherical hitbox created by a parry tool, and the attacking player is facing less than 53 degrees away from the parrying player. Second, there is the force parry, which occurs when the hitbox of a parryable weapon collides with a player who is in active parry frames. The curved sword parry is one of 2 parries usable in the game that does not have the second parry type. As you can see, the window that is present for other parry tools is just not there. This makes any parries by it have to be done directly in the face of opponents, and they can easily counter it by facing more than 53 degrees away with any attack. With all that said, the curved sword parry gets the sad and lonely existence of being placed 11th in our ranking. Damn, why is it always the cool looking ones that are the worst? Okay, so what's so bad about the katana parry? If you look at the actual frames of the parry animation, it has the same startup and window as the fist parry. However, use it for one moment in actual PvP, and you'll definitely get the feeling that there's something severely limiting your speed. That is indeed the stance animation. Before you can actually do the parry, you need to go through 5 frames in 30 FPS of the stance startup before you can do the parry animation. In that way, it has the slowest parry startup in the game at 9 frames. That's almost 1/3 of a second. You'll need the slowest attacks at low latency to reaction parry anything with this. I guess you could always just hold the stance? although this limits your movement and will likely make your opponent more cautious about R1ing point blank, staring directly at you. It also happens to be the only other non-glitched parry in the game that doesn't have the force parry. Yay. So your dreams of doing an epic backwards katana parry are never gonna come true, Kevin. To add insult to injury, it only has a bit more than half of the tracking that an ordinary parry tool with tracking has. So I'm sorry to do it to you, weebs, but the katana parry lands at a very unfortunate 10th place. We all love the fair and meme sword, don't we? Honestly, the biggest thing going for this weapon is that you can easily make your opponent forget that it even has a parry. Although, the reason it's forgettable is because unfortunately, it's also a uniquely bad parry. On top of no tracking and a delayed and small parry window, it is also the only parry in the game without block frames. Yeah, so if you get a partial with a weapon that does heavy hit stun, good luck getting the riposte after that. Actually, now that I think about it, if you are a parry swapper and are going for the most flashy swaps, this might be the one for you. If you get a partial with a weapon that does light stun, you can get the parry and instantly have access to your inventory again, adding tons of free time for you to swap before you can take the riposte. But that really isn't relevant to 99% of players, so the meme sword is looking at a sad, neglected existence in 9th place. You know what really makes me sad is how players will usually have this as their first parry tool against bosses like Pontiff with no idea how much easier parries can be made with other tools. The parry window is exactly the same as the curved sword, however it has instant and lingering block frames, as well as high stability on shields like the Lothric Knight shield. This means failing a parry against something like a Great Axe will not leave you begging for your life, walking backwards with negative 60 stamina and a dream. However, you have to be very precise, and the lack of tracking means that if you don't get it on the first try, subsequent attempts can be easily punished with a prediction run and backstab. You might as well use a tool with a better and quicker window, try it only once or twice, and if you fail, suck up to the consequences for missing. That is, if there is time for any consequences. Remember, you can roll less than a second after the parry, so do that if you can. Still a pretty awful window and no tracking, so I'm gonna give it an 8th place. It's still the same except better recovery, I guess? It's basically a higher stability main hand small shield, but worse in every other way. 7th place. Okay, we are finally back onto the fancy ones. It has the same startup as medium shield, but has one extra frame on the parry window. It also features a bit of tracking. That's pretty punk. The rapier gets 6th place. Basically a better rapier parry. It has an extra frame on the parry window and faster recovery. So even though it starts a bit later than some of the better ones, it still casts a wide enough window that it feels comparable with something like the fist parry. A great choice for 5th place. Alright, now we're getting into the meta territory. This one is pretty boring in my opinion, but it's used a lot, so let me explain. It has a startup of 5 frames, which is 1 slower than the fist parry, but 1 faster than a medium shield parry. The reason why it's used so much, however, and this will be shocking in comparison to all the others we've seen so far, it has 5 whole parry frames. That is longer than how long the hitbox lasts on most attacks in the game. On top of that, it has instant and lingering block frames, so even if someone is new and thinks they can frame 1 reaction parry anything with this garbage, they still are barely going to be punished for it if they are using a high stability small shield. Also, if you spam it, there's only 1/3 of a second in between parries that you are not in block frames. So, if you are using a weapon that has a lot of parryable frames on successive attacks, and they block first, you'll have to guess if your hit emptied their stamina before you continue swinging. If you are right, they are completely vulnerable and can need several hits before they can roll. If you are wrong, you may easily get parried. This seems to be a fan favorite of common organized gankers, as unlike Cestus, it doesn't have the tracking to make backstabs more difficult, but they don't need that as they'll have their teammates to cover their backs usually. I believe this parry teaches the user bad habits, but regardless of my opinion, it still has very good attributes to go along with it. A dishonorable, but deserved, 4th place. This one is a tie, as the parrying shield in the off and main hand have practically the exact same frame data when it comes to the parry window, block frames, and recovery frames. The parrying shield is surprisingly great, yet underused. It is also the only shield parry that has tracking, and it has great frames with a startup of 4 frames and a parry window of 5 frames. It also has instant and lingering block frames, and usually has enough stability to survive even a few straight sword hits. However, it has one weakness, and that is poor recovery, as it has the slowest recovery of any parry tool. After the animation starts, you have to wait exactly 1 second before you can roll. Seems short, but someone can perform a runaround and backstab in a fraction of that time. This all makes it an excellent 3rd place. Now here is by far the most popular parry tool you've undoubtedly seen players all around use, and that is the fist parry. Specifically, you'll usually see them use Cestus in the offhand, as newer players might not even notice it compared to the bare fist. So, what actually makes the fist parry actually good? Well, it's fast. Specifically, it has a 4-frame startup and a 4-frame parry window, tracking, instant block frames, a super fast cancel on Crow Talons, Mannequin Claws, and Demon's Fists. Let me explain that final attribute. All parry shields, Cestus Claw, and Parrying Dagger use this window for canceling parries out of attacks. It is very slow. Rapier and Curved Swords use this window for canceling out of attacks. It is faster. Crow Talons, Mannequin Claws, and Demon Fists, all because of their main hand weapon arts, use this cancel window. It is very fast. This cancel can enable very fancy setup parries out of stun locks that wouldn't be possible otherwise. For that and all the other stated reasons, the fist parry has to go in my second place. And the best parry tool in the game is... Oh my god, do I love this parry. It starts up fast, has instant guard frames, has the speedy recovery, and did I mention? It has the largest parry window in the game. When it comes to parries, this thing is the equivalent of a shotgun. On low latency, it's frankly hard to miss with it. The only thing this parry lacks is tracking, but that barely matters as you can slip right out of most backstabs someone might try on you with this thing, due to the recovery being so low. You can even make it work with a soft swap playstyle. And surprisingly, you don't see it often. The only other tools that you don't see as often as this one are probably the medium shield and parrying shield in the main hand as well. It couldn't be anything else. Small shield in the main hand takes a well-deserved first place. Thank you all so much for watching. I put a tremendous amount of time and effort into collecting the clips, putting together the sketch, collecting the data, and editing the video on this one. And after this one is out, I'll be able to finally clear out my drive. Also, you should be glad I forgot to remind you to subscribe at the beginning of the video because I'm gonna do that from now on. And remember to also ring that MFing bell. I want to thank the following people for assisting me with information, voice lines, or other things in this video. And thanks to all the brave players I encountered that took a Black Knight Great Axe to the face for this video. And especially thanks very much to those who have subscribed over on Patreon. On top of commenting or directly messaging me anywhere else, I'm happy to answer any messages there. I have some other videos planned, but it may take some time for them to come out. I'm moving in about 20 days from now, so I won't be able to work on videos while that's happening. I'll try to schedule a couple of short videos to come out over that time, as you guys seem to enjoy them. And I have more than enough material for them, I can tell you. And that's all I have to say. See ya, people.